Us and Them is made possible in part from grants from the National Endowment for the Humanities, the West Virginia Humanities Council, the CRC Foundation, and the Daywood Foundation. I don't know about you, but I'm still feeling stunned, dazed, angry, and sad about this recent presidential election. I remember years ago going with my father to see the West Virginia University football team play in the Sugar Bowl in New Orleans. The Florida Gators devastated our Mountaineers by a lopsided score. It was humbling. And as we walked away from the Superdome, my dad offered this piece of sage advice. Trey, everyone needs to take a little ass whipping every now and again. So, I, like many other Americans, actually the majority of the people who voted, are recovering from a major ass whipping. From West Virginia Public Broadcasting, this is Us and Them. It's the podcast where we tell stories from America's cultural divides. I'm Trey Kay. On the eve of the 2012 election, I was speaking with my friend Alice Moore, a conservative Christian friend who's been featured on this podcast several times before. She was no great fan of Mitt Romney, but she kept talking to me as though there was a reckoning that was soon to come for Barack Obama. And she was certain that he would be defeated. I remember saying to her, Alice, I'm confident that President Obama is going to be reelected. If he loses, I know I'm going to be disappointed, but I don't really feel that I need to worry about that because I have an ample number of news sources that are assuring me that he's going to win. And I went on. Apparently, you have news sources that make you confident that Obama will be defeated. Tomorrow morning, one of us is going to be wrong. If Obama loses, I'm going to be disappointed, as I said. Moreover, I'm going to be incredibly angry with the sources that guaranteed an Obama victory. I'm going to want to know how they got it so wrong. And I'm going to demand answers. Then I said, Alice, if Romney loses tomorrow, are you going to have a similar skepticism for your news sources? Are you going to hold these sources to account? And are you going to scrutinize and possibly rethink where it is that you're getting your information? If I remember her answer correctly, she said something about not being able to trust the liberal media and that her news sources were thoroughly reliable. So bottom line, there was no need for her to scrutinize her non-liberally biased media sources should Romney lose because that wasn't going to happen. That night, I felt a little smug thinking about Alice and other right-wingers getting a real dose of reality. I recall the amusement of looking at my Facebook feed that night and reading the comments of my conservative friends bemoaning the results. It was painful rising out of bed on the morning after the 2016 election.
A night.
And a complete earthquake. This was an earthquake unlike any earthquake I've really seen since Ronald Reagan in 1980. It just came out of nowhere. Nobody expected. I mean, Pennsylvania.
Yep.
Republicans haven't won it since 88.
It came out of nowhere.
Wisconsin. Republicans haven't won it since
This election left me feeling extremely disappointed, shocked, stunned, and profoundly humbled. And I was sorely angry with my information sources, the polls and pundits on shows like MSNBC's Morning Joe, and especially political prognosticators like Nate Silver's 538 website. On election night, when things were looking pretty dim for a Clinton victory, I reloaded 538 over and over. I pored over it like I was reading the fine print of an insurance policy. Actually, I was clinging to Nate Silver's data crunching as assurance against impending doom. In the way that Harry Potter's Lord Voldemort was so hyper-concerned about keeping his Horcruxes, those little charms that ensured his immortality, safely hidden from his enemies. With each Trump state victory, I'd check back to 538 as if it held some magical solution. As the evening progressed and Clinton seemed more and more vulnerable, 538 showed her chances of winning flagging minute by minute. I remember checking in at one point and she was around 72%. Phew. Then it dipped to 50, and then it dove sharply to 23. Ouch. At first, I felt like Voldemort, standing with confidence and impunity, only to have Harry Potter and his pals destroy each Horcrux one by one, making me, or in this case Hillary Clinton, more and more vulnerable, making what seemed to be an assured victory less and less likely. The only problem with this Voldemort Horcrux analogy is that I didn't think that I was on the evil side. And I know that many of my conservative friends think otherwise, but for the most part, I felt that I was with the good guys, the ones that were going high when the other side was going low. Putting the Harry Potter analogy aside, I'm feeling like the fortress that protects my preferred future has had its walls smashed by a huge battering ram. And now any control that I think that I might have on the future feels subject to chance, or at least no more secure than anyone else's. And it's that lack of certainty that we all struggle with, right? But ultimately, there's precious little that we can be certain of if we're really being honest. I'm now getting the dose of reality that my conservative friends felt back in 2012. I recall them feeling stunned and extremely disappointed, and that's where I'm at right now. And the smug, gloating comments that conservatives are making on my Facebook threads are no balm to my deep wounds. But I guess that goes with the territory. Over the past few days, I've processed my feelings with my friends, both in person and on Facebook. Lots of them are furious with the media. They think that most news programs didn't vet Trump thoroughly enough and were much harder on Clinton. I see their point on some of this, but in many ways it sounds to me like extremely disappointed people casting about for a place to direct their anger. Sure, much of the media helped amplify Trump, but the image they projected wasn't manicured or whitewashed. The nation saw plenty examples of his shortcomings and ugly side. If you thought he was incompetent and lacked the temperament for the job, there was plenty of supporting evidence presented in all the media, Fox News included. The takeaway is that many people didn't care what the candidate said or did, and particularly didn't care what the media said about him. I mean, the guy said outrageous thing after outrageous thing, things that would have ended the bid of any other candidate in our lifetime. But he just powered on. I mean, I really think that, as he himself boasted, he could have shot and killed someone on Fifth Avenue in Manhattan and still gotten himself elected. If anything, I assumed the constant media attention that he was exploiting would backfire, because everyone would know the crazy, backwards ideas he spouted. But everyone did hear those ideas, and not everyone thought they were crazy or backwards. I've read lots of articles, heard pundits sift through the data, trying to divine some kind of analysis on how everyone was blind to the outcome. And I should add that 2016 was very different than 2012. 4 years ago, Fox News was delivering a different narrative based on what they believed to be reliable data. This year, most of Fox News, along with everyone else in the mainstream media, predicted a Hillary wins outcome. But as I reflect on folks shaking an angry fist at the media for how they covered Trump, I wonder, what do we really want from news organizations during election cycles? Do we want them to give us just the facts, ma'am, straight, no chaser? Or do we want the media to have an agenda and work muscularly through their reporting to bring a desired future into reality? A future that is in many ways shaped by a societal and perhaps a partisan worldview. Do we want the media to assure us a future that guarantees advocacy on a laundry list of issues that we care about? income equality, national security, immigration reform, affordable health care, championing civil, women's, LGBT rights, high-quality, accessible, affordable education, church-state separation, attention to climate change, and stewardship of the environment. If this is what we want, is it reasonable to expect the media to reliably deliver it? And if it is what we want, why do we mess around with the pretense of just wanting the media to report the facts, when what we really want is an insurance policy guaranteeing the specific future or election result that we desire? And what if the media is just simply out of touch, willfully or negligently, with how a significant portion of our country sees the state of the union, where we are, and where we ought to be headed? What if the loss of manufacturing jobs or the defeat of ISIS is simply higher on their agenda than, say, climate change or LGBT rights? If you're a fan of this podcast, you might have been wondering why we, the podcast that tells the stories of America's cultural divides, have been silent over the last several months. The fact is, we've faced some serious financial problems. But the good news is we've recently secured some funding, which is letting us get back to work. It drives me nuts that we've been on the sidelines during this election, a culturally divisive period in our nation's history that's perhaps only rivaled by the Civil War. Not addressing the us and them aspects of this election has worn on me like glass churning in my gut. It's always been our mission to give an empathetic listen to people that we don't understand and hopefully do what we need to have them better understand us. After a brutal and frankly toxic presidential campaign, I felt that we've needed a forum like Us and Them, no matter who won the election. But now that we're looking at President-elect Trump, we've got a good amount of work to do. We have several episodes planned that have nothing to do with politics or the issues of this recent election. But I have a feeling that we might need to do some processing of this emotional juggernaut of an election. This past year, I've faced a good amount of uncertainty with my work and have had a lot of anxiety about my future. An episode we're working on finds me doing some personal processing as I take you along to an appointment with my shrink. My therapist helped me understand that I might have more in common with the voters who put Donald Trump in office than I had previously considered.
The more that you connect with that other part, the part that you're experiencing, the uncertainty, the disorientation of that, how frightening and upsetting that is, how it creates a kind of sense of almost vertigo.
Yeah.
That's a more positive way to connect with that other part of the populace, the voter populace. I think, you say, God, this is something that I've experienced for the past 2 years. In my mind, what gives the power to a Donald Trump is that he, on some level, tapped into that feeling in a lot of people and gave voice to it, albeit in that sort of angry, lashing out kind of way.
My therapist has never told me if he listens to the Us and Them podcast, but his advice seems to align with the spirit of our program. He thinks that empathizing with the Trump camp might be a remedy for the pain that I'm feeling right now.
What's been taking place in, culturally, I think, is that in some ways there's this huge argument that's going on about whose side of the boat is leaking. It's more about, what are we going to do about this leaky boat? Because it don't matter if it's your side or my side. We're all going down if it comes to that.
I know there are liberals and conservatives, Democrats and Republicans, and independents who, although have kept busy blaming each other for the leaky boat, have had trouble with the tone of this election. And I know there are others who are perfectly fine with the middle finger and the sharp elbow to the jaw that a Trump presidency brings to the national discourse. The bottom line is, it's something that we're just going to have to work through. And although it ain't easy, I know that things could be worse. Several years ago, after a candidate that I had high hopes for lost a close election, I was feeling really depressed. After his concession speech, I went out to my car to run an errand, and in doing so, ran over our family's dog. God, that sucked. So, yeah, things could be a lot worse. But so far, I haven't killed any pets. You've been listening to Us and Them. This show was produced by Mitch Hanley and me, Trey K. Michael Lipton and Tristan Lozow wrote and performed our theme music. Mark Lerner designed our logo. Rita Krisofi and Mariana Trofimova designed our website at usandthempodcast.com and provide us with images for the web. Our wonderful intern is Nicholas Tantillo. The marvelous people at West Virginia Public Broadcasting make Us and Them possible. So do grants from the National Endowment for the Humanities, the West Virginia Humanities Council, the CRC Foundation, and the Daywood Foundation. Now that the election is over, what issues or stories are you following that have been overshadowed by the presidential campaign? Tell us on our Facebook page, or tweet something to us at UsThemPodcast. Or send us an email or maybe a voice memo to Trey, Trey, at usandthempodcast.com. Remember, there's no ampersand. Next time, as promised, I take you with me onto my therapist's couch for some decompressing. But also how over the past several months, this election has really gotten into my head and into my heart. So much so that I've required a little bit of blood work.
Even though I'm a big boy, I still get freaked out by needles.
Okay, ready?
Okay.
Ah,
Okay.
that's okay.
Yeah.
Ah,
Okay, there you go.
okay.
Yeah, I know his needles.
That's next time on Us and Them.